At long last, the day has come when I don't have to see your face anymore. Freeloaders who just eat without working should get out. You should be thankful for being allowed to be a freeloader all this time. Understood. I won't come back. Thank you for everything up to now. I quickly packed what I needed and left my in-laws' place, where I had been living for many years. My mother-in-law looked very pleased as she watched me leave. However, only I know a certain sad truth. I know what's going to happen to this house. My name is Sarah. I'm 32 years old and I work from home. I've been married to my husband Alan for 5 years. We had a peaceful life as a couple, but things changed in our fourth year of marriage. My normally healthy father-in-law suddenly became ill and needed care. That's how we started living with my in-laws. I didn't agree with the idea of living with them so soon, but my husband is an only child, with no other family for my in-laws to rely on. We ended up taking care of my father-in-law. I thought about quitting my job if it were necessary for his care, but based on my past performance, my company allowed me to continue working remotely. Trouble with my in-laws started right away. Yes, I experienced the so-called mother-in-law and daughter-in-law problem too. Sarah, hurry up and take care of the cooking and cleaning. How long are you going to be lazy and avoid your housework? Mother-in-law, I'm working right now. What are you talking about? You're always just clicking away on the computer. The truth is, you're just browsing the internet, not really working, right? Thinking that using the computer equates to playing around on the internet is so outdated. I have permission to work from home from my company. In between the household chores and caring for my father-in-law, I've used my skills to get back to the salary I was earning before. And after about 3 months of hard work, when I finally managed to bring my salary back to the amount before, I felt a real sense of joy. As for the reason that I worked so hard, the truth is, Alan's salary isn't enough for us to make ends meet. I had thought that life was finally going to get easier. I even thought about starting to put money away. But for some reason, things just kept getting harder. It felt like the contents of my wallet just kept dwindling. Suspicious, I looked into where the money was going and found out that Alan had been spending a lot. I also learned that my mother-in-law was terribly wasteful with money. Alan has always been a people pleaser, often treating his juniors at work to lunch. But lately, it seems that he's also been using our credit cards to treat people to drinking parties as well. It doesn't matter how much I earn. If Alan uses more than that, our finances will inevitably dwindle. As for my mother-in-law, she's balancing multiple hobbies with her friends, generously paying the lesson fees and socializing afterwards. I can't stand the fact that my husband and mother-in-law continue their wasteful spending, leaving all the housework and care for my father-in-law up to me. I've ended up having to cover all our living expenses with my income, making saving money a dream. Feeling anxious about this problem, I decided to talk to my husband and mother-in-law. Ellen and mother-in-law, it seems like we've been spending quite a lot lately. If this continues, we'll run out of money. Could you please try to cut back on your expenses? Ellen and my mother-in-law reacted harshly to my words. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to be seen as stingy in front of my colleagues and subordinates. You can understand that, right? They won't think you're stingy just because there are times where you don't pay for them. There's no need to treat them every single time. You don't seem to understand, but for work to go smoothly, you have to keep good relationships with your coworkers. Treating your juniors to lunch is one thing, but what about the trips to the girls' bars? That has nothing to do with work, right? You just want to have fun, don't you? How did you? You come home drunk and start talking about it even if no one asks you. That just means he has a more enjoyable time there than spending time with you. I'm glad that mom understands. And she's right, laughs. And as for me, if I didn't go to my classes, I'd just be cooped up at home. I'm taking classes with my friends to enjoy the limited time I have left in this world. What a terrible daughter-in-law I have. All you do is the housework, and you don't earn anything, so you have no right to complain. Really though, what is she thinking? A homemaker looking down on us from her high horse. I'm telling you, I'm working. I'm earning a steady income and contributing to this household. I'm also doing housework and taking care of father-in-law. Don't lie. Working from home, you can't be earning that much. Mother is the one doing the caregiving. Don't act so high and mighty for a part-timer. I was so appalled by what I was hearing. I couldn't even reply. They didn't seem to understand that I was balancing the housework with caregiving, all while earning a steady income. Moreover, it seemed that my mother-in-law had told Alan that she was the one taking care of my father-in-law, making it sound like I was a homemaker who did nothing. There were several times when I thought about leaving that house. I did consider it, but the reason I ended up staying was because of my father-in-law. Ever since I got married, my father-in-law always treated me very kindly, unlike Alan and my mother-in-law. And he always told me things like this. Sarah, I'm grateful to have a wonderful daughter-in-law like you. I'm sorry for everything. Father-in-law, I don't find it hard to care for you. Why would you say that? Of course, I feel bad asking you to take care of me like this. But more than that, I feel terrible about my wife and son. Everything's been left to you, and they do as they please, right? Yes, that's right. I realize that it's thanks to your hard work that our household finances are being kept afloat. Ellen's income alone wouldn't be enough to maintain this household. Father-in-law, you knew all this time? It seemed that father-in-law had understood our family's situation for quite some time, and every time he received care, he would show his appreciation with heartwarming words. I truly loved such a father-in-law and even came to enjoy caring for him. What would happen to this house if I left? I had anxiety about who would take care of my beloved father-in-law, so I decided to be the one to provide proper care until passed away. A year later, my father-in-law left this world. During the funeral for my beloved father-in-law, I couldn't stop the tears. Sarah, why are you crying so much? What? Father-in-law has passed away. Isn't mourning like this natural? I've been his caregiver all this time. My response seemed to infuriate my mother-in-law. You make it sound as if I never took care of him at all. The truth is, my mother-in-law hardly took care of my father-in-law. She was always busy with her hobbies, going out all the time. Since I was home, she didn't need to do any caregiving or housework. She even put on a tearful act in front of the relatives, as if she were the oppressed and pitiful mother-in-law. To outsiders, it probably seemed as if I was the cruel daughter-in-law. They would defend her, saying, "Don't be so hard on mother-in-law," and blame me instead. Even though I was just mourning my father-in-law's death, I was being criticized by people who understood nothing, which made me angry. I decided to distance myself from the relatives. That's when Alan took notice of me and came over to complain. You embarrassed Mom in front of everyone? What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. I was only crying about father-in-law's death. Despite that, your mom came over and told me it was strange for me to cry. Didn't you make it sound like she hadn't taken care of Dad at all? I never said such a thing. I just talked about mourning the loss of my father-in-law, whom I had always cared for. Perhaps it sounded like criticism to you because, in reality, your mom did nothing. Are you insulting Mom? I'm not insulting anyone. I'm just stating the facts. And by the way, if it bothers you so much, you could have done more to care for father-in-law too. If you're so upset about it, you should have cared for him yourself. What business is it of yours? Why are you criticizing me? How can it be none of my business? It's only natural that you, his blood relative, would take care of him. I'm working for this family. Taking care of the house or relatives are wife duties. That's absurd. Don't be so ridiculous. I'm working too, you know. Our argument escalated, and the relatives had to intervene. Although they stopped our argument, I didn't speak to my husband at all after that. Once all the funeral proceedings were finished, a lawyer came to explain the inheritance. I'd like to discuss the contents of the will regarding your late father's estate. First, to the wife and the daughter-in-law, Sarah, he's left half of his cash to each of you. And to his son, Alan, he's left ownership of the family land and home. What? If Alan gets the land and the house, doesn't that mean all the other assets go to the wife? Why is Sarah receiving an inheritance? I'm his wife. Your husband was deeply grateful to Sarah for the dedicated care that she gave him. He wanted to give her part of the inheritance as a sign of his gratitude. As this is the decision he made, it cannot be changed. I can't believe it. Oh, I get it. You were caring for him just to get the inheritance, weren't you? How could you think that? That has to be it. Otherwise, there's no way you could have been so devoted to him despite not being related by blood. I had a good relationship with my father-in-law ever since I got married. I took care of him to express my gratitude for that. Are you saying that you tried to let me, someone who isn't related by blood, take care of your own husband? Isn't that like psychological abuse? Don't be ridiculous. Fine, I won't bring it up anymore. Appearing frustrated that she couldn't say anything else inappropriate in front of the lawyer, my mother-in-law continued. So, that was Dad's decision. It's gratitude for Sarah's caregiving, right? If that's the case, then we have no choice but to follow it. May I continue? All right, well, your father stated that it's no longer necessary to rely on Sarah. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law's face, which had been dissatisfied just moments ago, suddenly broke into a smile. Yes, that's great. I understand. Huh? What do you mean? My mother-in-law seemed pleased, but my husband was confused. He didn't seem to understand what she was saying. So, in the end, Sarah's inheritance is nothing more than severance pay. It's not gratitude at all. Now that Dad's caregiving is over, we don't need Sarah in this house anymore. My mother-in-law had misunderstood my father-in-law's will, just as intended. The truth is, my father-in-law had discussed this with me before. My father-in-law wanted me to be free from this house after he passed away. He used the will to cleverly deceive my husband and mother-in-law, making it seem natural that I should leave. And just as my father-in-law had planned, my mother-in-law, completely misunderstanding his true intentions, saw the will as a chance to kick me out. Pretending to be shocked by the will, so as not to let on that I actually wanted to leave, I said, "Father-in-law, why would you treat me like this? See, even to Dad, you were just someone that would take care of him. Ellen, you can't understand Sarah anymore, right? Why don't you just divorce her? Ellen, you'll still stay married to me, right?" As I looked at Ellen with tears in my eyes, he thought about it for a while and then said, "You know what? Let's get a divorce. I've inherited the family home and land, and Mom got some money too. There's no longer any need to worry about caregiving, so there's no problem if Sarah goes." What do you mean by that? Just what I said. I feel bad for asking, but could you leave our house and agree to the divorce? Understood. I guess there's no place for me here anymore. Saying such with a bit of restraint, I took a document out of the drawer and handed it to my husband. After that time we fought, I went and got this. No mistake, the document was a notice of filing for divorce. My husband promptly signed it. Finally, I don't have to deal with you anymore. A non-working freeloader should just get out. Laughs. You should be grateful for us having put up with you. A total freeloader. Is that so? Okay, I understand. I'll leave. Thank you for things up to now. By the way, since the lawyer is here, I want to check one thing. It's okay that I don't get any more than what I've already received from father-in-law's estate, right? Of course. You seem to have gotten a bit smarter, Sarah. You've been living off me until now. So don't even think about squeezing any more money out of me. Well, I suppose you're right. All right, it's settled then. Please make yourself disappear quickly. I promptly packed my things and left my in-laws' house. Watching me leave, my mother-in-law looked as pleased as could be. They had no idea what would happen to this house in the future. After leaving my in-laws' house, I immediately submitted the divorce notice to City Hall. And when I arrived at the apartment I had rented in advance, I couldn't help but shout out loud in the spacious room, "Finally, I can be by myself. This is great." I was overwhelmed with joy to be freed from such a difficult marriage. And I was truly grateful to my father-in-law for devising the plan to help me escape my in-laws' home. Afterwards, I enjoyed a comfortable life living on my own. Because I was able to get used to working remotely while living at my in-laws' place. I had become better at managing my time and work went smoothly. Thanks to that, my income increased and I was living a comfortable life without anyone bothering me. Until one day, my ex-husband Alan called me. It's been a while. Why are you calling me? We're in a pinch. Sarah, please help us. What kind of joke is this? Weren't you the ones who told me to disappear? My salary hasn't changed, but for some reason, we're running out of money. We can't live like this. Oh dear, laughs. That's a problem, isn't it? I decided to deliver the final blow. That's because you no longer have my income to support you. Huh? What do you mean? You still don't get it? Didn't you notice while living so lavishly that your salary alone was not enough? I had thought that we could live on my salary alone, but you're telling me that's not the case? Of course, you squandered your entire salary on yourself. We only got by because I was the one paying for our living expenses. Maybe it's about time you and your mother learned some financial responsibility as adults? That's how much were you making then? Let's see. At that time, I was making about $4,800 a month, maybe? That's more than me. That's right. You didn't know, did you? By the way, now I'm earning even more than that, with no one to get in my way, laughs. Even through the phone, I could clearly feel my husband's frustration. Hey, Sarah, can't we start over? Eh? It was a mistake to let you go. I want to make things right again. Huh? It's obvious you're after my income. Are you stupid? That's not true. I still love you, Sarah. Don't be ridiculous. I never want to see your face again. By the way, what happened to the inheritance your mother received? With that amount, she should be living comfortably, right? That's the thing. It's about to run out. That's impossible. It was nearly $100,000, right? That's not an amount you can use up in just a few months. Mom and I spent it on shopping sprees, overseas trips, and half of it disappeared in the casino. A foolish mother breeds a foolish son. I have nothing more to say to you. Besides, I'm a stranger now, so I can't do anything for you, and I don't want to. Don't be so heartless. Help me. This has nothing to do with me. There's nothing more to talk about, so I'm hanging up. Don't call me again. Saying this, I ended the call on my end and promptly canceled the contract for the mobile phone I was using. What became of my ex-husband and mother-in-law afterward is none of my business, and I do not know. However, about a year after that call, I passed by my mother-in-law's house and it had become an empty lot. They probably had to let go of the house due to financial reasons. Well, it's really none of my business anyway. As for me, with my newfound spare time, I started going to a wine class that I had been interested in for some time. There, I met a man 2 years my senior who took me seriously, and after dating for a year and a half, we got married. He is the ace of a well-known company that many people are aware of, and despite his high salary, he is humble with a warm and wonderful character. He respects my career, and we enjoy a fulfilling married life filled with mutual respect. These days, I feel that maybe all this retribution was a gift from my father-in-law.